The jollof rice was still steaming when Nickolas, the billionaire CEO of N Black Group, lifted the spoon toward his mouth. The living room lights glowed softly across the marble floor. Outside, nightbirds called. Inside, silence ruled. Then, "Don't eat it." A loud voice tore through the quiet house. The spoon froze in mid-air. Nickolas turned sharply. And there she was, Bisola, his poor maid, running out of the kitchen with fear in her eyes. Her black and white uniform shook as she moved, her hands stretched out as if she wanted to grab the food out of his hands. Before he could speak, she pushed the plate with all her strength. Crash! The expensive ceramic plate hit the marble floor and shattered into pieces. Red jollof rice and chicken scattered like a spilled secret. For a moment, the whole mansion went silent again. Nickolas stared at Bisola as if she had lost her mind. His face changed shock, confusion, then anger. He stood up quickly, towering over her. "Bisola," he said slowly, his voice deep and cold. "Did you just push my food?" Bisola stepped back, breathing fast, her eyes shining with fear and courage mixed together. And when he raised his hand, not touching her yet, but ready, she shouted with her whole heart, "I just saved your life." Nickolas froze. "What did you say?" Bisola swallowed hard. Her voice shook, but she didn't look away. "Your food was poisoned, sir. I saw it." His hand dropped. "What?" "Your fiancée, Madame Vicky. She poisoned it." Just then, the bedroom door opened, and Vicky, dressed in a red night robe, stepped out. She stared at them, at the broken plate, the scattered food, Bisola's shaking hands, Nickolas' shocked face. Then she walked quickly toward them. Before Nickolas could say a word, slap! Bisola's face turned to the side as Vicky's hand landed hard on her cheek. "How dare you say such things about me?" Vicky screamed. Bisola held her burning cheek, but she didn't cry. She didn't run. She didn't hide. She lifted her phone with trembling fingers. "Sir, I have proof." Nickolas blinked. "Proof? What proof?" She tapped her phone and turned the screen toward him. A video began to play, and the room grew colder. Nickolas leaned closer. The video showed Vicky, wearing the same red robe, standing in the living room earlier that evening. Bisola had secretly recorded her through the kitchen doorway. They all watched as Vicky looked around to make sure no one was watching. She opened the jollof rice pack slowly, pulled a small bottle from her bag, sprinkled a clear liquid over the rice, used the spoon to stir it gently. Then she closed the pack like nothing happened. The video ended. Nickolas stared at the phone, then at Vicky. Vicky stumbled backward until her knees hit the floor. She held her head with both hands. It wasn't poison," she said quickly. "It wasn't meant to kill you. It was just a love substance. Just something to make you love me more. Please, Nickolas, believe me." Nickolas closed his eyes. His chest rose and fell. Hard, slow, painful. He opened his eyes again, and something inside him had changed. "Get away from me," he said quietly. The room felt heavy. Even the air seemed scared. But Bisola, she stood still, watching everything with a pounding heart. Vicky crawled toward Nickolas, crying, "Please, please, don't call the police." But Nickolas turned to Bisola instead, and with a voice that didn't sound like his own, he said, "Bisola, call them." Bisola hesitated. "Sir, are you sure?" Nickolas looked at her, and this time his eyes were soft and full of something she had never seen before. "Call them." Bisola picked up the landline. Her hands were shaking. Vicky screamed as she ran to the door, but it was too late. Within minutes, sirens echoed outside the mansion. Police entered. Vicky was handcuffed. Nickolas turned away as they dragged her outside, her screams breaking the night. And then, the mansion grew quiet again. Nickolas didn't know when it happened, but he suddenly found himself pulling Bisola into his arms. She gasped softly. "Thank you," he whispered, voice shaking. "Thank you for saving me." For the first time that night, tears slipped down Bisola's cheek. She whispered back, "I just did what was right, sir." Nickolas stepped back, wiping his eyes. He wanted to ask her questions. He wanted to understand this brave girl. He wanted to know why she risked everything. But before he could speak, Bisola suddenly swayed. Her legs trembled. She tried to stand, but her body went weak. "Bisola," Nickolas rushed forward. She blinked slowly. And then, she collapsed right in front of him. Nickolas caught her before she hit the floor. His heart jumped into his throat. Bisola, Bisola, can you hear me? Her eyes fluttered. Her lips parted. And she whispered one word, just one, before everything went dark. Mother. Nickolas carried Bisola in his arms as if she weighed nothing. Her body felt cold, too cold, and her breath was weak. He placed her gently on the long white couch in the living room, his heart pounding louder than the police siren from earlier. Bisola, please wake up, he whispered, but her eyes were still closed. For the first time in many years, billionaire Nickolas, strong, powerful, feared in boardrooms, felt scared. He didn't call his guards. He didn't call the chef. He didn't even call the doctor. He reached for his phone and dialed his personal emergency line himself. Come quickly. A staff collapsed, breathing weak. His voice shook, something his workers had never heard before. While waiting, he knelt beside Bisola. He brushed a strand of hair away from her face. Her cheek still had the faint red mark from Vicky's slap. Her maid cap sat slightly crooked. Bisola, who is mother? He asked softly, even though she couldn't hear him. Then, her eyes suddenly fluttered. Nickolas sat up straight. Bisola? Bisola, can you hear me? She opened her eyes slowly, blinking as if she was waking from a long dream. Her breathing steadied, but her face showed something else, deep sadness. Sir, I'm sorry, she whispered. Nickolas shook his head. You did nothing wrong. She looked away, ashamed. My mother? She's sick. Nickolas frowned. Sick? Where is she? Bisola hesitated, and in that quiet moment, Nickolas saw a different side of her, not the brave maid who saved his life, not the strong girl who stood up to Vicky, but a tired young woman carrying a heavy secret. She's at home, Bisola said. In a single room, behind the old market. She swallowed. I take care of her alone. Nickolas felt something shift inside him. This girl who risked everything to save him was dealing with struggles he knew nothing about. Just then, the mansion door opened. His private doctor rushed in with 2 nurses. Nickolas stepped aside, but stayed close, watching every move. The doctor checked her pulse, her blood pressure, her eyes. How is she? Nickolas asked immediately. The doctor adjusted his glasses. She fainted from emotional stress and exhaustion. She needs rest, food, and she needs to stop overworking. Nickolas's chest tightened. He realized something he had never noticed. Bisola wasn't just hard-working. She was surviving. After the nurses gave her a mild injection and water, Bisola sat up slowly. I'm fine now, sir. I can continue my work. Work? Nickolas's voice rose. No, you're not working. Not tonight. Not tomorrow. Bisola looked confused. Nickolas continued. You need rest, and I want to know about your mother. Bisola's lips trembled. She had tried so hard all her life to hide her pain from everyone. But tonight, everything was coming out. Sir, my mother, Madam Hannah, she can't walk well anymore. Her legs are weak. I give her medicine every day. But, her voice broke. The medicine is expensive. I work here to pay for it. Nickolas closed his eyes. He felt a sting inside his chest. This girl had saved his life, while her own life was falling apart quietly. Then Bisola whispered the part she feared the most. Sometimes we don't have food. I give her my share from my salary. Sometimes I even bring leftovers from the mansion. Nickolas's eyes opened sharply. Leftovers? His voice was firm. You've been starving yourself. Bisola looked down, silent. That silence was enough answer. Nickolas stood up and paced like someone trying to calm a storm inside. Why didn't she tell anyone? Why didn't she ask for help? How long had this been happening? Then he turned to her. Bisola, he said softly, I want to take you to see your mother. Bisola's eyes widened. Sir, at this hour? Yes, tonight. Sir, no, please. The room is small, the roof leaks, the mattress is old. I don't want you to see it. Bisola, he said gently. I want to see everything. Her eyes filled with tears, not from sadness, but from shock. No one had ever said that to her. No one had ever cared enough. After a long pause, she nodded. The doctor insisted she drink warm water before leaving. Nickolas helped her stand, steadying her with one hand. As they walked out of the mansion, Bisola whispered, Sir, do you truly want to see her? Nickolas looked into her eyes. I need to, he said. You saved my life. Now let me help you save yours. The night air was cool as Nickolas drove the car himself, something he never did. Bisola sat quietly beside him, holding her hands tightly. She watched the bright city lights fade into darker, quieter streets. She felt embarrassed, scared, nervous, but also strangely safe. Nickolas noticed her silence. You can talk to me if you want, he said softly. Bisola shook her head and whispered, I don't want you to see me differently. Nickolas turned to her. I already see you differently, he said. You're brave, strong, honest, and you saved me when you had every reason not to. Bisola's eyes softened. She wasn't used to kindness. She wasn't used to anyone listening. She wasn't used to being seen. They reached a narrow street behind an old market. Shadows covered the walls. A small kerosene lamp flickered outside one of the rooms. This is it, Bisola said quietly. Nickolas got out of the car and followed her inside. The room was tiny. A single bed, a wooden chair, one small fan, a leaking roof bucket at the corner, and on the bed, a frail old woman lay with her eyes closed. Mother, Bisola whispered. Madame Hannah opened her eyes slowly and smiled faintly. My daughter, I thought you wouldn't come tonight. Bisola's voice shook. I'm here, Mama, I'm here. Nickolas stood by the door, watching the emotional moment. Then Madame Hannah noticed him. Her eyes widened. Who is this man? Bisola opened her mouth to answer, but before she could speak, Madame Hannah gasped suddenly, clutching her chest. Mama? Mama? Nickolas rushed forward. Call for help, Bisola cried. Nickolas was already dialing. Madame Hannah's breath grew shallow. Her eyes rolled back. And right there, in that tiny one-room apartment, Madame Hannah stopped breathing. Bisola screamed, Mama, and Nickolas's phone slipped from his hand. Mama, Mama, please wake up. Bisola cried so loudly the whole room shook. Nickolas knelt beside Madame Hannah's bed, his heart racing. He had seen fear before fear in boardrooms, fear in business threats, fear in the eyes of people who owed him money. But nothing compared to the fear in Bisola's voice right now. Her hands trembled as she held her mother's weak shoulders. Mama, please, look at me, please. But Madame Hannah's eyes were half closed, her chest barely moving. Nickolas grabbed his fallen phone and shouted into it. It's an emergency. Send an ambulance to Olayinka Street, behind Old Market, room 12. Now. He didn't wait for the reply. He dropped the phone and leaned closer to Madame Hannah. Madam, stay with us. Help is coming. Bisola wiped her tears roughly, as if forcing herself to be strong, but her whole body shook. No, please. Not her. Not tonight, she whispered. Nickolas placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. We won't lose her, he said, even though his voice didn't sound confident. All they could do was wait. The faint sound of an ambulance siren grew louder, slow at first, then sharper, then right outside the door. 2 medical workers rushed inside with a stretcher. What happened? One of them asked quickly. She couldn't breathe, Nickolas answered. She collapsed suddenly. They checked her pulse, her oxygen, her heart. Bisola watched every movement. Her tears didn't stop. Her fingers shook as she whispered old prayers under her breath. Finally, one of the medics said, We're taking her to Zenith Health Hospital. She needs urgent attention. Can I enter the ambulance with her? Bisola asked, crying. Yes, the medic said. Nickolas stepped forward. I'll follow in my car. Bisola turned to him with weak eyes. Sir, thank you. Nickolas shook his head. Don't thank me. She's your mother, and tonight she's my responsibility too. The hospital lights were bright, cold and sharp. Nickolas and Bisola sat side by side on a long bench, but far apart enough that anyone could see they came from 2 different worlds. Bisola still wore her maid uniform. Dust from the old market room clung to her sleeves. Her eyes were red and swollen. Her hands were shaking non-stop. Nickolas sat straight, but his heart felt heavy. He kept staring at her, wondering how she carried so much suffering alone. After almost 30 minutes, a doctor stepped out. Bisola jumped to her feet immediately. How is she? Please tell me she's okay. The doctor sighed softly. We stabilized her for now. Her heart is weak. She has been battling this for some time, hasn't she? Bisola nodded with guilt. Yes, doctor, but the medicine is expensive. I try, but sometimes I can't buy it on time. The doctor looked at her with kind eyes. She will need full care, regular treatment, and she cannot stay in that one-room environment anymore. It is too risky for her health. Bisola lowered her head. I understand. Nickolas stepped closer. Can we see her? Just one person, the doctor said. She's still very weak. Bisola looked at Nickolas, unsure. You can go first, she whispered. Nickolas shook his head. No. She needs you first. Go. Bisola nodded and walked into the room. Nickolas remained outside. His chest tightened. His throat felt heavy. He wasn't used to feeling helpless. He wasn't used to watching people suffer. He wasn't used to caring this much. The room was quiet. The machines beeped softly. Madame Hannah lay on the bed, a small oxygen mask over her nose. Mama, Bisola whispered as she took her hand gently. It's me. Madame Hannah's eyelids moved slowly until she could see her daughter. My child, she whispered weakly. Mama, please don't leave me, Bisola cried softly. You're all I have. Madame Hannah smiled a little. My daughter, you are stronger than you think. No, Mama, please don't talk like that. Shh, her mother whispered. Listen to me. Bisola bent closer. My daughter, you're special. You're kind. You're brave. One day, your life will change, and you will not suffer like this anymore. Bisola's tears dropped onto her mother's hand. Madame Hannah's fingers squeezed hers weakly. Where is the man who brought us here? She whispered. Nickolas? Bisola asked. Yes, bring him, Madame Hannah said. I want to see him. Bisola wiped her tears quickly and rushed out. Nickolas stood immediately when he saw her. She wants to see you, sir. Without hesitation, he walked inside with her. He approached the bed slowly. Good evening, Ma, he said gently. Madame Hannah smiled the same faint smile. You brought us here. Nickolas nodded. You raised a brave daughter. Madame Hannah's eyes softened. She saved you, didn't she? Yes, Nickolas said. And I owe her everything. Bisola wiped another tear. Madame Hannah breathed slowly. Sir, please, promise me something. Nickolas stepped closer. I promise. Take care of my daughter, she whispered. She has suffered enough. Please, don't let the world break her. Nickolas swallowed. I will, I promise. Madame Hannah exhaled deeply, as if releasing a heavy burden. Thank you. Her eyes closed gently. The machine beeped twice slow, then slower. The doctor rushed in at the sound. Ma'am, can you hear me? He checked her pulse. Bisola held her mother's arm tightly. Mama, no. The doctor breathed out heavily. I'm sorry. She's gone. Bisola screamed and threw herself over her mother. Ma, please no. No. The nurses tried to hold her. She pushed them away, crying from the deepest part of her soul. Nickolas stood frozen. His chest hurt. He didn't know when tears fell from his eyes. Then something happened. Bisola turned to Nickolas, with tears streaming, and shouted, Don't touch me, this is your fault. Nickolas stepped back, shocked. My fault? He whispered. Bisola pointed at him with shaking hands. If I didn't work in your house, if I didn't spend all my time there, I would have been with her. She wouldn't have died tonight. Nickolas swallowed hard. Bisola, Don't say anything, she cried. You took everything from me. You took my time, my strength, my life. Now my mother is gone. Nickolas's heart broke. He reached out a hand. Stop, she shouted again. And then she sank to her knees on the hospital floor, crying like a child. Nickolas wanted to comfort her, but he didn't know if she would even let him close again. He didn't know that her pain was about to change both their lives forever. Bisola sat on the cold hospital floor, crying like the whole world had broken in her hands. Her sobs echoed through the hallway, raw and painful, the kind that came from a heart that had carried too much for too long. Nickolas stood a few steps away, frozen. Her words still rang loudly in his ears. You took everything from me. My mother is dead because of you. He didn't know what to say. He didn't know how to move. He didn't even know how to breathe. For the first time in his life, Nickolas felt useless, and he hated that feeling. A nurse walked over and knelt beside Bisola. My dear, she said softly, please stand up. We need to prepare the body. No, Bisola cried, pulling her mother's cold hand close to her chest. Leave me, leave her alone. Nickolas turned his face away. He couldn't watch the pain on Bisola's face, it hurt too much. The nurse tried again. We understand your pain. You don't, Bisola screamed. No one understands. She was all I had, all. Nickolas felt his throat tighten. The nurse looked at him helplessly, as if asking him to help calm Bisola. But Nickolas shook his head slowly. He knew he was the last person she wanted near her. After many minutes of crying, Bisola's strength finally gave way. Her hand slipped from her mother's fingers. Her head dropped forward. She whispered one last broken sentence. I have no one left. Then she fainted again. The nurses rushed to catch her. Nickolas ran forward too, his heart pounding. Be careful, he shouted, his voice cracking. They lifted Bisola gently and placed her on a stretcher. The doctor hurried over. She is under severe emotional shock, he said. She needs rest and close monitoring. We'll admit her. Nickolas followed the stretcher down the hallway as if pulled by an invisible thread. He didn't care who watched. He didn't care about his image. He only cared about the girl who had just lost everything. The hospital placed Bisola in a private room. Nickolas stood beside her bed, looking at her pale face. Her hair was messy, her breathing slow but steady, her eyes swollen even while closed. She looked small. She looked tired. She looked like a girl who had been strong for far too long. Nickolas pulled a chair and sat beside her. The room was quiet. Too quiet. He could hear his own heartbeat. He whispered to her, even though she was unconscious. You didn't lose everything. You still have me, even if you don't want me. He rubbed his face with both hands. He felt guilt. He felt sadness. He felt something he had never felt before. Responsibility. 20 minutes later, his phone rang. It was his company's HR director. Sir, the board is waiting for you. We have the 9 a.m. investor briefing. Nickolas cut her off. Cancel everything. Sir? I said cancel everything. Push every meeting, every appointment, everything. Sir, do you want all day cleared? All week, Nickolas said. Until further notice. The HR director was silent for a moment. Yes, sir. Right away. Nickolas ended the call. He didn't take his eyes off Bisola. Hours later, Bisola's fingers moved. Nickolas sat up straight. Her eyelids fluttered. She winced softly, as if waking from a nightmare. Bisola, Nickolas said gently. Can you hear me? She opened her eyes fully, and the first thing she saw was Nickolas. Her face changed instantly from confusion to pain to anger. You're still here, she whispered coldly. Nickolas nodded. I won't leave you. Bisola turned her face away. Please go. Bisola. Sir, please. Her voice was soft, but it cut deep. I don't want to see you. Nickolas swallowed hard. I'm sorry for everything. Bisola's tears returned. Sorry, won't bring her back. Nickolas lowered his head. I know. She wiped her eyes with weak fingers. Sir, I just need to be alone. He shook his head. No, not now. Bisola looked at him, confused. Nickolas stood up slowly. Your mother trusted me with you, he said. She made me promise to take care of you, and I will keep that promise. Bisola's voice cracked. Why? Why do you care so much? Nickolas stepped closer. His voice was low and honest. Because you saved my life. And because I can't stop thinking about you. Bisola's breath caught in her throat. Her eyes widened. He continued. You're brave. You're kind. You risked everything to save me, even when your own life was falling apart. That kind of heart is rare. Bisola's lips trembled. Sir, please don't say things that will confuse me. Nickolas took a deep breath. I'm not trying to confuse you, he whispered. I'm telling you the truth. Silence fell between them. Bisola looked down at her hands. Her voice was shaky. I don't know what to do. I don't even know how to live without my mother. Nickolas gently placed his hand on hers. You won't live without anyone, he said. You're not alone anymore. Bisola stared at their hands touching. Something changed in her eyes. Not love yet. And not trust yet. But something new. But before she could speak, the door burst open. A police officer stepped in. Mr. Nickolas? He asked. Nickolas turned sharply. Yes? The officer looked serious. There's a new development in Madam Vicky's case. Nickolas frowned. What development? The officer handed him a folded paper. You need to see this immediately. Your life is still in danger. Nickolas froze. Bisola gasped, and the officer said the words that made the room feel colder. The substance we found was not a love charm. It was real poison. The officer's words hung in the air like ice. The substance we found was real poison. Bisola gasped and covered her mouth with her shaking hands. Nickolas stepped forward, his eyes sharp and confused. What do you mean? He asked. The officer unfolded the report. We ran a new test this morning. It was not a charm. It was an actual poison called Zinova 45, a dangerous substance that can stop the heart in seconds. Nickolas's stomach tightened. Bisola felt weak again, gripping the bedsheet with trembling fingers. The officer continued, Sir, this means Madame Vicky knew exactly what she was doing. Nickolas clenched his jaw. All the memories from last night returned: the broken plate, the video, the slap, Bisola's fear, the betrayal. The good news, the officer said, is that your maid here saved your life. If she hadn't pushed the plate away, you wouldn't be standing here. Nickolas turned to Bisola. She looked at him with wide eyes. He stepped closer and said quietly, You didn't just save my life. You saved my entire future. Bisola looked away, her eyes filling with tears. The officer saluted lightly. Her bravery will be added to the case file. Court resumes tomorrow. Madame Vicky's charges will be increased. He left the room. The door clicked shut. The silence that followed was heavy, painful, and honest. Nickolas sat down beside Bisola. She wiped her tears and whispered, Sir, your life was really in danger. He nodded. Yes, and you were the only one who protected me. Bisola swallowed hard. I didn't think, I just acted. I didn't want anything to happen to you. Nickolas stared at her. Why? She froze. Her heart beat fast. I don't know, she whispered. I just knew I couldn't watch you suffer. You gave me work. You treated me kindly. I didn't want to lose you. Nickolas took her hand gently. Bisola, look at me. She did. Slowly. Scared. Soft. You didn't lose me, he said. I'm right here. I've been here. And I'm not leaving. Her lips trembled, and before she could stop them, tears spilled again. I lost my mother, she whispered painfully. She was everything. Nickolas pulled her into his arms gently, not forcing, not rushing, just holding her. She may be gone, he said softly, but her last words were a request. She trusted me to take care of you, and I will. Bisola pressed her forehead against his chest. You don't have to, she whispered. But I want to, Nickolas said. 2 days later, Madame Hannah was laid to rest in a peaceful cemetery. The sky was calm. The breeze was soft. Bisola stood beside the grave, holding a white flower. Nickolas stood right behind her, quiet and protective. When the coffin was lowered, Bisola cried silently. Nickolas placed a gentle hand on her back. After the final prayer, Bisola turned to him. What happens now? She asked in a weak voice. Nickolas answered softly. You come home with me. Bisola blinked. Home? To work? Nickolas held her gaze. No, he said. To live. Her heart jumped. He continued. You are not going back to that one-room place. You are not that girl anymore. You deserve better. Your mother wanted better, and I will make sure you never feel alone again. Bisola lowered her head. Sir, why are you doing all this? Nickolas stepped closer. Because I care about you, more than I expected, more than I planned. Their eyes met. Bisola felt something warm growing inside her chest, something she hadn't felt since her mother was alive. Safety. The next morning, Nickolas returned to the hospital to take Bisola home. But he didn't take her to the staff quarters. He took her into the main mansion. Sir, this is not for me, she whispered. It is, Nickolas said. From today, you're no longer a maid. She gasped. You're joining my company, he continued. Not as a cleaner, but in the account department. Account department? She repeated, shocked. Yes, he said. You graduated as one of the best students. You deserve to use that gift. Tears filled her eyes. But who will believe in me? I will, Nickolas said. And the whole company will know you're under my protection. Bisola covered her face with her hands and cried. Not the tears of sorrow this time. tears of hope. Weeks passed. Months followed. Bisola grew into her new life. She became confident, focused, respected. Nickolas took her to business meetings. He introduced her to investors. He traveled with her to conferences, Abuja, Kenya, Dubai. Wherever he went, Bisola followed. And wherever she stood, Nickolas watched her with quiet admiration. Slowly, gently, their hearts began to connect. She no longer saw him as a boss. He no longer saw her as a maid. They became something closer, something deeper, something neither of them said out loud. Yet, one bright morning, Nickolas led Bisola to the mansion garden. The grass was fresh. The flowers glowed under the sunlight. The air smelled sweet. Bisola wore a simple white gown. She didn't know why he called her outside. She stood by the roses, confused. "Sir?" she asked softly. "What is happening?" Nickolas turned to her with a calm smile. "I want to thank you," he said. "For what?" she whispered. "For saving my life. For surviving your own pains. For fighting through everything. For becoming the woman you are today." Bisola felt her heart beat loud and fast. Nickolas moved closer. "Bisola," he said gently, "my life changed the day you pushed that poisoned food away from me." He took her hand. Her eyes widened. Then, Nickolas knelt down on one knee. Bisola gasped and covered her mouth. "Bisola," he said in a steady voice, "I don't want a future without you. Will you marry me?" Her tears fell instantly. She shook her head, not to reject him, but because she couldn't believe he loved her. "Are you sure?" she whispered. "Yes," he said. "I want you. I choose you. Your mother blessed you, and now I want to bless your future." Bisola fell to her knees too, crying as she held his face. "Yes, yes, I will marry you." The wedding day came quickly. The hall was filled with flowers and gold lights. Guests filled the seats. Nickolas stood at the altar, wearing a sharp white suit, looking like a man who finally found peace. Then the doors opened, and Bisola walked in. She was dressed in a long white gown. Her veil sparkled. Her smile shone brighter than the lights. She looked like everything her mother had prayed for. And on her arm, Madame Hannah's sister walked her down the aisle, handing her over proudly. When she reached Nickolas, he whispered, "You're not poor anymore. You're not alone anymore. You're my wife from today." Bisola smiled through her tears. "You gave us a second chance," she whispered. "Thank you." They held hands. The pastor blessed them, and as they kissed, the whole hall stood up and cheered. The girl who once lived in a tiny leaking room, the maid who once collapsed in pain, the daughter who cried at her mother's grave, became the wife of the man she saved, and her mother's wish finally came true. If you like this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.